Most women recognize graceful living the moment they see it. It's not about love or having a perfect life. It's something you notice immediately, even if you've never been able to explain how or why. You just see it in how a woman moves through her day, in how she handles interruptions, and how she carries herself through ordinary moments. Graceful living is something we intuitively understand, even when no one has ever shown us how to do it deliberately. And that's what we'll talk about today. Not graceful living as a philosophy, not as an ideal, but the 5 areas where it actually shows up in everyday life, in the small, practical ways a day is shaped and experienced. Welcome back to Gracefully Lori. I'm Lori. If you're new here, this channel is for women who want to live authentically, express themselves with intention, and move through the world with quiet, modern grace. This video is part of a short 4-video series where I walk through what graceful living actually looks like, not in theory, but in everyday life. So let's get started. Area 1. You may notice that some days feel off, even before they begin. Not necessarily because there's too much to do, but because too many things are unsettled. A message you haven't answered yet, a conversation you're still thinking about, a decision that keeps tapping you on the shoulder while you're trying to move forward. Nothing is urgent on its own, but together they stay with you, pulling at your focus throughout the day. Graceful days aren't necessarily quieter. They're simply more deliberate about what gets access to you and your energy. There's a difference between being available to everything and choosing what actually belongs in the day you're living. This might look like deciding when you're reachable and when you're not, without needing to explain or justify it. It might look like being fully present in one conversation instead of half present in 5, or letting something wait, not because it doesn't matter, but because today already has a shape. And this is where grace quietly appears for the first time. Not in doing less, not in controlling more, but in where your attention goes. When your attention has intentional direction, the day stops pulling at you. And from there, everything else begins to move more smoothly. Area 2. There are days when everything flows easily, and days when things feel just slightly off. Not enough to complain about, not enough to explain, but enough to notice. You move through your day, you get things done, you interact with people, and yet something feels faintly uncomfortable. Not stressful, not dramatic, just not quite smooth. Those are usually the days when you're being more tentative than you realize. You're adjusting things as you go, thinking about how something landed, recentering yourself between moments. It's subtle, and most women never name it, but it takes energy. In comparison, on days that feel easier, you're not thinking about how you're coming across. You're not monitoring yourself. You're not recalibrating after interactions. You simply move from one moment to the next, present, composed, and grounded. This is graceful living, not in impressing anyone, not in projecting confidence, but in how settled you feel inhabiting your own presence. When how you present yourself supports you rather than asking something from you, the day moves differently. This shows up in small practical ways. Clothes that allow you to stay outward focused instead of self-aware. Think tugging at your clothes. A personal style that feels consistent across your day. Speaking with clarity because you trust yourself to handle whatever comes up. Letting words land without over-explaining or replaying them later. Nothing about this is performative. It's not about polish. It's about self-trust. When you trust how you show up in what you wear and how you engage, you move through the day with more assurance. And that assurance creates space. Space to listen, space to respond, space to be fully where you are. That's one of the quiet ways graceful living takes shape. Not by adding anything, but by removing the need to manage yourself as you go. Area 3. There are places you go every day that quietly affect how you feel long before anything actually happens. You walk into those places carrying a certain energy, more open, more tense, more alert, or at ease. Most of the time, you don't consciously register it. You just move through your day with a little more effort or a little more ease, depending on where you've been. Graceful living shows up here too. Not in whether a space is calm or vibrant, not whether it's styled in a certain way, but in whether the environments you move through are working with you or asking something from you. Some spaces make it easier to settle into. Others keep you slightly on edge. even when nothing is technically wrong. You feel it when you come home at the end of the day. You feel it when you sit down to work. You feel it when you move from one part of your day to the next. A graceful day isn't created only by what you do, it's shaped by where you are while you're doing it. This is where many women think the answer is about aesthetics, but it's actually experiential. Graceful environments don't try to change you, they support who you already are. They can look like a home that helps you land instead of immediately demanding attention. Spaces that make transitions easier, from work to rest, from activity to quiet, from public to private. Rooms that reflect how you actually live now, not how you once lived or how you think you're supposed to live. Some examples: removing small daily irritations, the various setups that feel intuitive instead of requiring effort. Think of your work area as an example. Places that give something back to you rather than subtly draining you. When your environment supports you, your energy stays more intact as the day unfolds. You don't have to brace yourself as often. You don't have to recover as much afterward. And that quietly, steadily. Area 4. There are days that look completely reasonable on paper and still leave you feeling strangely depleted by the end of the day. Nothing dramatic happened. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't even do that much. And yet by evening, you feel spent. Not physically, but in a quieter way. What most women notice isn't what filled the day. It's how the day moved. Graceful living shows up in this space too, and how a day is paced and how energy is carried from one moment to the next. Some days feel more difficult, not because they're full, but because everything asks for the same kind of attention. Every hour carries the same weight. Every transition feels abrupt. There's no place for momentum to build or your energy to reset. Graceful days feel different, not because less is happening, but because the day has rhythm. Certain moments are allowed to be demanding. Others are allowed to be lighter, and not everything is treated as equally urgent or as important. You can feel it when there's space to arrive somewhere instead of rushing straight into the next thing. When emotionally difficult moments aren't stacked back to back. When transitions are given room instead of being rushed or squeezed. When parts of the day are intentionally left open, not wasted, not optimized, just allowed to breathe. This isn't about productivity. It's about sustainability. Graceful living doesn't ask every hour to perform. It understands that energy moves and that how you move through your time shapes how the day feels in your body. When pacing is intentional, you don't end the day feeling scattered or overextended. You end up feeling like you stayed with yourself all the way through. Area 5. There's a moment most days when something doesn't go as planned. A schedule shifts. An interaction takes a turn you didn't expect. An option closes or a new one opens. Nothing major, just enough to require a response. What separates a graceful day from a frustrating one isn't the change itself. It's what happens after the change. Some women tense immediately. They replay the decision. They second guess what they should have done differently. They carry a quiet edge for the rest of the day. Others adjust, almost without drama. They choose, recalibrate, and keep moving. Graceful living shows up here in how you handle what shifts while you're already in motion, not by clinging tightly to the original plan, and not by pretending the change doesn't matter, but by trusting yourself enough to respond in real time. Graceful women don't need perfect plans because they trust their ability to adapt. They're willing to choose direction over rigidity, to let something evolve without turning it into self-criticism, to decide once and then move forward without reopening the decision 5 more times. They don't require certainty to proceed. They require self-trust. And when that trust is present, changes don't derail the day. They become part of it. Grace doesn't come from control. It comes from steadiness, from knowing that whatever comes up, you know how to meet it. Graceful living isn't about doing life differently. It's about moving through it differently. When fewer things are allowed to follow you, when you trust how you'll handle yourself, when your spaces support you, when the day has rhythm, and when decisions come from self-trust instead of pressure, ordinary days begin to feel more coherent and graceful. Not perfect, not effortless, but grounded, intentional, and yours. If you'd like a simple way to notice where your days already support you and where small adjustments might create more ease, the Lifestyle Self-Inventory introduced in the Art of Living Gracefully video is linked below. So, what is one thing you'd like to do to bring more grace into your daily life? Please tell me in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts. And if this conversation inspired you, liking the video helps it reach women who are looking for the same kind of clarity. I share new conversations like this each week, so if you'd like to keep exploring what graceful living looks like in real life, I'd love for you to subscribe. Until next time, my graceful friends.